report. They called it the 2021 U.S. Equity Outlook, Roaring Twenties Redux. And in it, they had an 8-page segment about ESG. And they used it to look at the S&P 500 and try to find, which companies scored the highest. They really looked at the environmental and social aspects of the companies, and they came up with a list of 50 companies.
Okay. And so they basically are picking those that are doing well. And I think ESG, as you know better than most, I feel like for a long time it was just it sounded like a nice thing to do, but it's gotten really serious. And we look at a list like this, especially as we know that customers, they care more about this when it comes to the companies that they work with.
Exactly. I mean, it's been amazing what's happened this year in socially responsible investing and ESG. I mean, there's been $28 billion of money that's been invested in ESG-focused funds this year. That's more than the 5 previous years combined. And that demand is only certainly going to increase with the election of Joe Biden, who's obviously much more environmentally friendly than Donald Trump has been. So, I mean, Goldman's premise is that that the demand is going to keep going. And statistically, they show that the companies with the highest E&S scores, environmental and social scores, have generated stronger returns than those with the lower scores.
So they're actually performing better in terms of financial numbers, financial metrics.
That's what Goldman reports. There has been some debate on this, but they point out
No. Please continue.
They point to the MSCI ACY index, and they say that companies that score in the top quintile on ESG produce an annualized return of 11%, compared with 8% for those companies in the bottom quartile. And those companies include the ones that you mentioned at the beginning, Carol.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I don't know if you caught Alan Jope of Unilever up at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum. It was happening this morning, and I know it'll continue. But Alan Jope said something about Gen Zennials, which is a term I've heard of Gen X, I've heard of Gen Y, I've heard of millennials, but he said Gen Zennials. He said they are the consumers of the future, and if you want to be relevant in the future, you have to think about them. And he's just basically saying to companies out there, that's who you need to be thinking about, because they care about things in terms of how a company impacts their, the carbon footprint, how they impact the environment, whether they really are sustainable. The one thing I want to ask you, why I've got you here, Tim, is that the definition of ESG, and this is in your story, it's I feel like when people say this is a natural food, it means nothing. Organic, there are rules to it. So we need to have the rules be really clear, and I know we're working on that.
Exactly. I mean, I think organizations, including Bloomberg, is trying to work on a statistical way that you could, measure the various aspects. I mean, in the Goldman report, they say that the definition of ESG, is it broad and ambiguous and makes it difficult to assign a single rating to a company or to compare sustainability across industries and sectors. And also the availability of ESG data in quality is uneven. But I mean, there's certainly a lot of firms that are taking this very seriously, including Bloomberg, to try to get their hands around presenting data where investors can say, all right, this number is pure. We know that this company is doing well on ESG.
Right, whether it's equality, whether it's diversity. I mean, if you have clear, concise metrics and ways to measure it, then you can compare companies, and especially for investors where this matters, right? It's not just greenwashing and just saying we're doing good. You can actually show the numbers and be really transparent about it. Hey, Tim, thank you so much. I think it's a really important story. And thanks again, too, for your patience as we were weaving in and out of some of the news of the day. Tim Quinton, his executive editor at Bloomberg News, joining us on the phone from New York City about Goldman picking its winners when it comes to the ESG sweepstakes. You're listening to Bloomberg Business Week. On the other side, we're going to get to Dave Wilson and his chart of the day. That's coming up on Bloomberg.